Welcome everyone to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, and today I am going to talk to you about The Handmaid's Tale Season 4, Episode 3. It's called The Crossing. So, full spoilers for the episode as always. And I was so up and down on this episode. If you remember, I wasn't that hot on the first episode of the season. Episode 2, I was much more positive on. Minor nitpicks, but for the most part, a much better episode. This one was like a weird exercise in kind of... How did I put this? So, where we are at the end of the episode, I'm intrigued by, I'm interested in, and that's cool, right? That's good stuff. But there was a journey to get there that kind of made me realize where I am with this show in terms of some of its mechanics. Now, I've talked a lot about some of the stuff that's maybe grown a little tired over the seasons, some of the stuff that they're returning to a little bit too much, but I think the thing that stuck out to me the most in this episode is that, you know, we spend a lot of it, June being captured at the end of the last episode, she spends a lot of the time in this one being tortured, interrogated. They really want to know where the rest of the handmaids are, and we get the various attempts at forcing her to speak and the buttons they try to push in order to do that. And I'll talk about some of those, you know, bits and pieces. But towards the end of the episode, when they've succeeded and June has given in, and we'll talk about how and why in a bit, but Lydia, you know, tells her, oh, she's going to a breeding colony, and you're all going to be handmaids again. And then we have a sequence where, you know, Lydia dresses her in the red with the white hat, and like all of this happens. And during all this section of the episode, I was ready to come in here with guns blazing, full of fury and fire, and just starting to. I was going to tear it apart. During this 5-minute part of the episode, I was getting ready to come in here and absolutely shit on it. And it's not that the stuff before that was particularly bad. There's some fine stuff in the episode. I wouldn't say it was as strong as last episode, but it was fine. But what really struck me, so the moment that stuck out to me the most, and the way it made me kind of reflect on how I feel about this show right now, is obviously they're teasing here that they're going to this new farm that's grooming, or not grooming, this breeding farm of just all the handmaids are there doing other work, and then they're sort of brought in, kind of picked off the line to do their handmaid duties, rather than being at a house with a dedicated commander kind of thing. At least that's what it sounded like. And we have them all together again in a van with Lydia, and they're all sort of sitting there. It's all very depressing, of course, because they've all been captured again. Even the other handmaids, when the guards do come to get them, they have this moment where they choose not to be found, like, cowering. They sort of all stand up and kind of take it with a little bit of solidarity, a little bit of pride. And we have them all in this van with Lydia, and the Guardian who's driving them to where they're going, you know, they get to a crossing, and the train's coming. It's going to be a long train, so he's like, hey, I'm going to go for a piss. And Lydia is, of course, you know, blessed be thy pee. And he goes off into the forest. And the big thing that happens here is that, and this is the sad part of this, is that I actually think this scene is excellent. I think this scene is excellent. I want to make that very clear. Fundamentally, what this scene does is that June and the others basically kind of tell us, the audience, that they are done being victims and they don't give a shit anymore. Like, they're going to fight back no matter what. Just because they've been captured again, just because they're in this depressing place, they're not just going to give up. June, you know, has her eyes on the stun baton, and she sort of like grabs it, and Lydia kind of realizes seconds before it happens that she's really planning something, and all the handmaids just go into action. They immediately try to get out the back of the truck, they flee, and we have this big sequence of them running in slow motion. A couple at the back get shot by the Guardian when he returns. Alma and one of the others gets hit by the train because June and Janine just make it. So we're left with just June and Janine at the end of this episode, as far as the survivors of these handmaids go. And we get a sort of really somber scene at the end where they all kind of introduce themselves to each other in, you know, silent whispers and lip reading back in the old, you know, at the start of all of this when they were being trained as handmaids. And that scene's good. But, you know, the point of this scene I really like. the point of this scene, which is, no, it doesn't matter, like, if you capture us again, like, we're not the same people we were before, we're going to keep fighting, and we're not going back to that. And that kind of lines up with where you feel as an audience member, because you're kind of sick of the Handmaid thing by now, and you don't want them to go back to that. But the one critique I'm going to give it, right, and it's not so much a critique of the moment itself, it's more just what the show has put me into in terms of a corner, with how I feel about what's going on. When this happened, I wasn't feeling the drama that the show wanted me to feel. I wasn't feeling like, yeah, they're fighting back, this is a moment of strength, this is a moment of growth, this is a moment of rebellion, and the uplifting feelings that they're supposed to come with that. Instead, my reaction was more like, oh, thank F they aren't screwing this up, because I really thought they were screwing it up until this point. You know, the build up to this, I wasn't like, you know, tense because of the drama like I'm supposed to be, like I would have been 2 seasons ago, where I'd be really into the drama and I'd be like worried for the characters, and I'd feel relieved because, oh, there is a, you know, a moment of fighting back, and it's not that someone comes to save them or anything like that. They do this on their own. There's a good character beat here. But all I felt in the moment was, oh, thank Christ we're not going to be spending the rest of this season on a colony where they're just all effectively, you know, in a worse Handmaid situation again. Like, that, I felt relief in a meta sense. I felt relief in the, oh my, you know, thank God this is not the season we're getting. Because I was worried. I was worried about what the show was going to be after this episode. For a good, you know, 5 or 10 minute portion towards the end of this episode, I was really starting to think I was going to hate where this was going. And so again, I think that says a lot about the show maybe outliving its welcome in its previous form a little bit, where my relief here wasn't for the characters like it should be, it was, oh, just good. Good, we're not doing that. We've dodged a bullet as an audience, rather than empathizing with the characters in the moment. And I think that's something that the show has done to itself for me, that I just have to kind of like, you know, acknowledge. I have to say this is where I was with this. And it's not that there's other good things in the show to enjoy in this episode, and it's not that potentially now there's a lot of great things to be doing with the rest of the season. That if anything, this could have almost been smart if it was a season ago. If the start of season 3 had something like this, where it kind of teased that things are just going to go back to the status quo or something similar to the status quo, but our characters are going to say, no, F this, we're defying that, and we're doing something else, because, you know, we're sick of it, just like the audience are sick of it. That could have worked at a meta level. I think here it's a little bit late, where I legitimately thought they were just going to do the status quo thing, and I was getting annoyed at it. I was getting annoyed at it. And I wasn't into the drama in the way that I was supposed to be. So, you know, I know some people might say, oh, you just weren't giving it a chance, or you were just jumping to conclusions. But there's a trust that the show earns with you, and the trust has kind of been eroded a little bit over the last season and a half, or something, you know, something in that range. And I think it's worth pointing out that my biggest feeling I had from this episode was relief that the writers weren't returning to the well, at least the same well. So yes, that was the big thing. That was the big thing for me from this episode, is that I really thought they were about to piss me off, and instead they kind of went to a different place with it. And you know, that's good. That is a good thing. That is fundamentally a good thing. I don't want to like undersell that is a good thing. It's just that the feeling I had before it was more of an existential writer like dread, as opposed to I'm in the show and I'm engaged with the characters, I fear for their safety dread. And I think there is a distinction there that is worth pointing out. And it's not the relief you want to feel. You want to be more in the world. You want to be there with the characters. You want to be sort of caught up in the thrills with them, and the elation of them fighting back, even at the cost that it brings. Because this episode in a lot of ways does show all of the costs that are given, which is, you know, June lies at first, of course. She then refuses to give up where they are, even when she's confronted with other handmaids that we know being murdered for that information. You know, this very cheery lieutenant guy who's doing all this interrogating. He's happily just throw them off the building, and it's a very, you know, dramatic beat for her. And, you know, I'll give them credit. I think the ultimate thing that makes her break down and give them the information they want is justified. It doesn't feel like a cop-out. It doesn't feel like, you know, the idea of her daughter being the thing. Like, if they threaten her daughter, if they're going to hurt her daughter, that is the one where she'll have to give in. That makes sense. That plays exactly to the character that we've had all these seasons, all this show. It makes complete sense. The only critique, this is not even a real critique so much as just a slight little nitpicky thing, but when Lawrence, who they asked to come and see her to see if he can kind of encourage her, you know, is you know, Nick specifically is the one who does that. When he brings up Hannah, I actually misheard him and thought he said Anna, and I thought, who's Anna? And I got really confused for like a minute, and then it kind of like became clear that we're talking about Hannah and, you know, her daughter instead. I was like, oh, okay, Hannah, all right. And of course, June's horrified that her daughter's scared of her and not the establishment, and that's, you know, something that really breaks it down. So yeah, I will say parts of it are a little bit by the numbers for Handmaid's Tale, in that, you know, seeing her be put in her room, seeing her be scared of the room and scared of the box they put her in at one point. It's kind of like, okay, but, you know, we've done this kind of thing before. Like, I'm not really fazed by this anymore, and I think that's why the ending is so good. It's just them being united and saying, it doesn't matter that we got caught. We're not just giving up and going back. Like, you know, we would rather die than go back to being a handmaid now. And some of them do die, and it's sort of the cost is there to sort of show that this is the life that they have now, this is the world they're in, but they'd prefer it than what they had before. So, you know, and I did enjoy June being very frank with Lydia when they're talking about it being Lydia's fault that Lydia failed Janine, and that Janine turned on her in a second. That Lydia is not who she thinks she is, and doesn't mean to these ladies what she thinks she does. So I do appreciate what it does at the back chunk of the episode, but the episode's not perfect before that. Like I say, some of it's kind of by the numbers by Handmaid's Tale standards. And I think the other thing that I wasn't really feeling, and I'm kind of just done with now at this point, is I could not give a shit about Nick and June's, you know, love or romance or their connection. I found myself rolling my eyes quite a bit when they have their kind of their goodbye kiss. I've not really known how to take Nick for quite some time in this show. He kind of got cast off for most of last season, with just a couple of hints of what he was up to, and I don't think I've been super interested in him this season. Maybe less is more is just a really good tactic to take with him. But them having their dramatic kiss and the camera, you know, spinning around them 360. I just and the music sort of like getting emotional. I just I don't really care about them as a pair like that. And I don't know if I ever did as a sort of mutual thing. It was more about, you know, June finding some sort of peace or finding some happiness in a really rough situation. I think here it's kind of outlived its purpose a little bit, beyond him just being someone who will, despite his position and seemingly everything else he may or may not believe in, he is willing to sort of offer help. So yeah, I wasn't necessarily in love with a lot of what this episode was doing, although a lot of it did make sense. And then it sort of teased that we were going back to handmaid life, and I was like, I was just miserable. Like, honestly, if they had gotten to the colony and if they were just going to be handmaids again, like, I might have quit the show. Like, I wouldn't have quit it this episode. I would have watched another episode to see what it was like before deciding, but I might have quit the show if that's where it did. So again, I wasn't like in there with the characters being worried for them. I was going, oh no, if they do this, I'm done. Like, I'm done. Like we can't do that anymore. We have to keep moving forward. We have to do new things. We have to, you know, extrapolate the drama beyond that. In fact, one of the things that does go beyond that, which again, some of the more interesting stuff this season and even last season has been the Canada stuff, because characters are allowed to kind of like deal with the trauma in a different way. And I think having Luke this episode find out Jun's been caught, but more just him struggling with the idea that Jun chose to stay behind, that she chose not to come back to him. And while, yeah, he can sit and sort of, logic it out and talk about, okay, she's trying to save Hannah, she's changed, there's all these different reasons, there's all these ways you can justify it. But fundamentally, this is, a woman that he fell in love with and married and had a child with, and is the most important person to him outside of maybe his children, and in his life. So I get it. I get that he has this existential kind of breakdown and doesn't know how to feel about that. It doesn't know how to feel about her not just choosing not to come back to him, but choosing the life that she has in Gilead over coming back to him, because she would have had he knows beyond a doubt that she had a chance. Like, she could have got on that plane, from his perspective. So yeah, this made a lot of sense to me, him not dealing with this, and him thinking that everyone going to a candlelit vigil to pray for her, he can't get on board with that. He does plant the thing, I can't remember what it was now, but the diplomat, the woman, I don't know, whoever he gets the information from, she suggests this is something her grandma did for luck, and he kind of does that by the end, and it kind of shows that he is still hoping, he still does care, of course, and there was never a doubt that he did. But yeah, so that was that was nice enough stuff. It was obviously a fairly small part of the episode overall, but that made sense to me. And it's I think the mistake this show can make at times is the idea that for it to work, that we have to put Jun through more worse and worse stuff, and we have to get more and more horrific. And we started off so horrific that there's a point where you become a little bit numb to that. And I think where the show excels, when it still can excel, is when it chooses to explore what this has done to people. And I think at this point, yeah, exploring the people who have escaped, and exploring them reflecting on the people who haven't escaped, and all these new sort of sides to it, and the situations that have arisen from where we started, offer new dynamics to explore and new questions to be asked and potentially answered, or at the very least pondered. And that's where things are getting interesting. It's why the Waterfords are more interesting in Canada right now. It's why the Luke and Moira stuff, and them trying to adjust and deal with their survivor's guilt and things like that, that stuff is the more interesting stuff in the show right now. And again, I do want to make it clear, Jun in The Handmaid saying, F this, we're not going back, we're fighting back, is a very great story beat, and it's a very great character moment for all of them, and it makes a lot of sense. It's just the show's kind of put itself in this corner where I wasn't on the hook for it in the way that they, wanted me to. And it kind of fundamentally colors this episode in a way where I look at it and go, oh, this episode, while it does some great things right, it kind of made me realize how I was feeling about certain things, and stuff that it kind of has to win me back in terms of my trust. So I'm very curious about next episode, though. I'm curious about episode 4. I want to see, so obviously Jun and Junita are on the run. Where are we going from here? Where are they going to go? Are they going back to Mayday for help? Do they find help? Are they going to get into more trouble where they have to, maybe kill a guard or two? Are they going to, what could they possibly do at this point? And that's interesting because I don't really know the answer. So as long as it's not just a repeat of situations we've had before, when characters have been kind of on the run in Gilead, I am excited by the possibilities of that. So, I'm feeling optimistic about the season. And episode 2 was pretty good. But what I was not feeling, and this one was kind of a roller coaster of my thought process and how it was making me feel and how it was making me reflect on where the show is right now and so on and so on. So, yeah. So I really want to compare it to wrestling, but I feel like the people watching a Handmaid's Tale review that would get the wrestling comparison would probably. I'll just say, for anyone who does understand wrestling lingo, I will say that the thought of them being handmaids again was go away heat for me, as opposed to actual heat. And I think wrestling fans will understand what I mean by that. Everyone else, hopefully I've explained myself the best I can. But that is episode 3 of the season of Handmaid's Tale. Apologies that it's taken a little bit of time to get to this one. I'm rotating through 3 shows right now as of this weekend. I'm hoping that I'll be able to keep the pace up a little bit going through the 3 of them, but I'll be back with episode 4 as soon as I can. So let me know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get me on the Twitters, at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. You can also get me personally at Wibble89 if you like. Go to patreon.com/mailfuzztv if you want to support the channel financially. For as little as $1 per month, you can help keep all the content coming. But you can also, of course, support us by simply hitting the like button, subscribe, comment. All those things on YouTube are like valued by YouTube, and they share us out more as a result. So please do hit those buttons. Every YouTuber will tell you the same thing. So thank you very much for joining me, and I'll hopefully talk to you soon about episode 4. So that's been Handmaid's Tale. So thank you once again for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Have you got any vanilla?